So a lot has been made recently about red flag laws, and this is where there's some special magical metric people can use to tell if someone's going to be a mass shooter. As I've covered in the past, there is no mental health diagnosis, no social media post, nothing that's a good predictor of who will become a mass shooter. But the left is absolutely screeching for these laws, even though they violate absolutely every principle of justice. You lose your gun rights in a court proceeding made in absentia where you're guilty until proven innocent. And without any clue any of it happened, the police are all of a sudden raiding your place to take your guns. The summer of unrest was only 2 years ago, but apparently that's all it takes for the left to forget that cops are incompetent, amoral thugs who constantly raid the wrong address and kill the family dog, and how rife they and the courts are with abuse. But the reality as it is today, even without red flag laws, tells a completely different story. I don't know who Alexandra Brown is, but apparently she works at a law firm. I don't know if she herself is a defense attorney or if she's a paralegal or clerk or something, but she at least works with defense attorneys, and with regards to red flag laws and how they will be abused, she relates a story which, if you doubt, just ask any defense attorney, because they all have similar stories to tell. This sort of thing is very common, unfortunately. Sorta Twitter Law School. Let's talk red flag laws and ex parte orders and due process, and how anyone who tells you don't worry, the process won't be abused and there are robust due process protections is, at best, wildly naive and more likely is lying to your face. Your legal vocabulary term for the day is ex parte. This means without party in lawyer Latin. An ex parte order is one issued without both parties being present. And she points out there are good reasons for this because sometimes you need to act quickly to protect someone. But she also points out that the due process protections kick right in after the order is filed. To show the potential issues with red flag laws, I shall discuss what happened to a client with the issuance of a protection order against him. He had an ex-wife who was bipolar and who refused to take her meds. She continued to harass him years after their divorce. She showed up to court with a black eye and said he punched her in the face. She sought a protective order against him, which the judge issued. Now again, this was ex parte. The guy had no right to show up or even know it was going on. All she had to do was make a claim, and no one representing the guy was in court. She also filed a criminal complaint for assault against a woman. The protective order statute requires gun confiscation until the hearing. Client learned about this when the police showed up to serve him with the order and summons for court appearance. He was stunned by this, not only because he didn't hit her, but also because he was out of the state on the date this supposedly happened. He told the police this. The police shrugged and said, "We're just here to serve you and get your guns." That is true. The cops do not adjudicate. They only do what the court says. So he turned over his guns and then got in touch with us later that day. Boss and he were longtime friends. So the boss tells him to get together all the documentation proving he was out of town and got in touch with the DA asking for it to be dropped. DA said, "I'm not dropping this, but moved to dismiss and will hear both motions at the 10-day hearing on the protective order." So we filed a motion to dismiss and motion to consolidate, and then boss went to the hearing. The crazy ex didn't show up to the hearing at all. Boss presented everything to the judge. Judge told the DA, "Withdraw the charges or I'm dismissing." The DA said, "Fine, I'll withdraw." Now, it's better for the stats on the DA's side to withdraw than to have the case dismissed. Judge also refused to extend the protective order. Client asked, "Where do I pick up my guns?" Judge said, "You have to go through the paperwork to do that." We'd anticipated that, so we had the forms ready and the judge signed the forms. Client said, "Where do I pick them up?" And judge said, "This has to be processed. It'll take 3 weeks. Client also asked the DA when the hearing would be for the ex's perjury charges. The DA said, "What perjury charges?" Client got very upset because it was obviously perjury. He wasn't even in the state. She provably lied. That's perjury. DA said, "No, we don't charge in these cases." 3 weeks go by and client starts calling the sheriff's office to get his guns back. He keeps getting the runaround. Boss had to threaten to go back to court to get an order compelling compliance. When client picked up the guns, his Mossberg shotgun was gone. The sheriff's office initially denied that he even had one. Luckily, he'd kept a copy of the inventory. It took 7 months for him to get reimbursement for the Mossberg. The sheriff's office never did say what happened to it, other than there must have been a mix-up. While all of that is going on, client was looking for work. He had 2 interviews that went well, and he was told that he would be offered the job once the background check was done. Both jobs retracted offers after the background check came back. So we had to get copies of the background checks from the background check services. Sure enough, due to how the database on the state side was maintained, the data scrape pulled the protection order and the charge, but the dismissal wasn't showing up yet. Client now had to decide if he wanted to disclose to a potential employer that, hey, I have a crazy ex who claims false things about me, here's a copy of the dismissal paperwork, or if he wanted to wait the 5 weeks it would take for the dismissals to propagate through the database. Also, the dismissal paperwork on the criminal charges was marked dismissed due to failure of complaining witness to appear. That said nothing about she lied about this entire thing. Boss had to explain the situation to an employer who, thankfully, listened. Because they were friends, Boss handled this at a very low rate. It still cost the guy $2,500. If it had been at Boss's standard rate, well over $10,000. All for something that was an actual lie. But Alex, due process, it worked. Sure, in theory it did. Oh man, that drives me crazy. Someone goes through this crap, or even spends years in jail for something they didn't do, they finally get exonerated, and the statists are all like, see, the system worked. Well, if that's the system working, what the hell does it look like when it fails? The protection order was not renewed. The criminal charges were dropped. He got all but one of his guns back. He got a job eventually. It all worked. Sure it did. All it cost him was $2,500, months of his life, humiliation during interviews, and immense stress. For a lie. She was never charged with perjury. There was no point in suing her since she didn't have any money. If you think that this won't happen with red flag laws, you are suffering from disordered thinking. And hey, isn't that a red flag? Yeah, I really think so. Thinking red flag laws wouldn't be abused is itself a red flag. But notice how the liar suffered no consequences. So what incentive does she and others like her have not to do it again? None. They can lie with impunity and make other people's lives hell, experience no negative consequences, and good and honest people have to suffer because of it. All because the justice system works. The process is the punishment. Never forget that. So thanks so much for watching. Comments for the comment god, shares for the share throne. Hit like, subscribe, and the bell to lift this video up through the unequal and unfair YouTube algorithm so more people will see it. And go to donate.bogosity.tv to keep these videos coming. You can donate with PayPal or crypto, or become a regular supporter at Patreon or Subscribestar and get these videos early and ad-free. Thanks again, and until next time, stay strong and be free.